It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Welcome to the Rap Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Rap Podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as per usual is Jamie and James. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello. Good evening.
Well, you two sound excited. Sitting in the hot seat for Cardiff this evening. Harley's off doing family stuff, I think is what he said. So, shit excuse if you ask me. Carwyn is sitting in for Harley this evening. So good evening, Carwyn.
Good evening, Lee. How are we doing?
Good, mate. Good. So you've got no drinking games to boast about from the weekends or anything like that, have you?
No, I spent it catching up with 3/4 of the Scottish pod post game. So that was my weekend, was catching up with Craig Manson, Cammy, and John McGinty. John Anderson was home in Scotland, I think.
So there's only one of us that's got a drinking game to boast about this weekend. Then James, you're okay on that one.
Well, I had to win something this weekend because I got a fucking tune in, both in the scrum and in the game as well.
So go on. So before we do drink of the week, then tell us just how shit you were on the weekend.
And I will give all credit to Andover. They're a bloody good outfit and nice lads as well. But their scrum was. There's a reason they're second in the league, and it's partly down to that. They are very, very good. We're a newly promoted side, and we're a young team. But you go up there, and so I'm not a first choice first team prop. I'm still working my way into that, and both props weren't first choice, put it that way. And yeah, so my shoulder went a bit dodgy around 60 minutes, and yeah, so I spent. Luckily, it wasn't my drinking arm.
Well, so that's the key bit. So
I still haven't lost a pint this season, put it that way.
Well, we're still waiting for someone to actually provide evidence that you play, mate. I've put it out there a couple of times.
Well, right. I would like to say Andrew Ford, right, of video YouTube fame, plays for Cardiff Saracens, right? I played for Cardiff Saracens once this season as a favour to my best mate, and Andrew Ford has always got a bad knee. I was like, I'm trying to corner the market on YouTube rugby royalty here, right? I've already claimed Robbie, right, and then I could have Andrew Ford. I'm going to go play for Long Eaton and get Will Owen next. So
yeah, but if he can't produce video footage of you playing, mate, I don't think there's much hope.
I'll have you know that I sent Dinas Powys absolutely backwards in that game in Roth.
Okay, let's do drink of the week then. So Jamie, you can start drink of the week, mate, because you have.
I have a non-alcoholic drink because I'm full up with man flu. So I have a Lucasade. There we go.
Oh, in a can.
In a can from Iceland. There's a deal right now on Lucasade. I think it's like £8 for a crate of Lucasade. So yeah, no alcohol this week, I'm afraid. I had a lovely beer lined up, but it's going to have to wait till next week.
Okay.
Sorry. Not sorry.
But it's not going to stop you from moaning about the game. So that's the important.
Oh, no.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. James, what have you got, mate?
It is a Guinness, but it's just in a Jack Daniel's promotional cup from 2017 that I used to get sent when I worked in pubs. So it is a Guinness, but I'm slightly worried that the Guinness went out of date on can in 2023 in about September. So this might be my last pod.
But again, you know, there's no real evidence there, James. That could be water. You know, we can't actually see what's in the glass. Do you know what I mean?
Doesn't taste like water, mate. I can tell you that right now.
Is that a metal cup? Is that a metal one?
It is a metal cup. Yeah, they're pretty good actually.
Doesn't that, you find that leaves like a bizarre taste, doesn't it?
Surprisingly, no. I've drunk Guinness out of worse things, put it that way.
Ashtrays and soiled boots and stuff. Okay, Carwyn, what have you got, mate?
I've got Mad Squirrel. It's a dusk porter. It's sort of a stout, basically. It's the simplest way to describe it. It looks like Coke, to be honest. I'm not a stout drinker, but it's actually really nice. I got caught in one of these promotional subscription deals, which I thought was only 1 month, and got caught out for the second month. So that's where that's coming from. And I don't drink very much. So yeah, there we go. That's my Christmas. Extra 20 quid spent on something that I didn't really need, but I've now got about 16 beers to get through. So thanks very much for inviting me on this week, basically.
That must be hell for you, having a big stash of beer. I've got to get through this, love. I've got to get through this. Otherwise, you know, there's more coming next month, isn't there? You know?
Exactly. It's hard. It's really hard task. But someone's got to do it, haven't they? You know, and I'm glad to fulfill my duties in that.
I did a wine offer on that once where you had, it was just before Christmas, and so there's a box of 12 red, a box of 12 white, and you had, if you bought both of them at the same time, you had a box of 12 mixed, 6 red, 6 whites. We thought, oh, okay, this will be fine. We'll get that, and then we'll keep that there, and we can give them for presents, and we'll have Christmas, and we'll have parties and all that kind of stuff. And that literally arrived on the Tuesday, and on the Wednesday night, my wife found out she was pregnant with our first child. She said, "Oh, well, I can't drink. With it." There were literally 36 bottles of wine just sat in the lounge, and I was the only one in the house drinking. It was fucking awesome. It was brilliant. Can't fault that stuff. So my beer of the week is another one of my harbours. It's called Blythe. Have I pronounced that right, Carwyn?
Yeah. Blythe Dragon.
Okay.
Oh, Wolf. I can't even speak my own language. Wolf. Blythe.
Yeah, Wolf Hop Golden Ale. So Blythe is Wolf, is it? See,
yeah.
Learning something tonight, boys. And the bollocks on this one. But where's the bollocks gone? Oh, there we go. Blythe is Welsh for wolf. This beer is so named because it is brewed using the recently developed Slovenian wolf hop. The Celtic interpretation of a wolf's head on the front label celebrates Harbour's brewery with Welsh. It tells you nothing about the beer at all. It tells you about the label and that there's Blythe means
wanky bollocks. That's what it is.
Wanky bollocks.
Yeah.
Wanky bollocks.
What wanky bollocks have you got on yours, Carwyn? I can see you looking now, see?
Yeah, I was wondering. An intense brew with variety smooth notes of chocolate and coffee and enchanting smoky and roasty overtones.
Right, none of them belong in beer.
My main issue is the amount of words that end in Y in that sentence. Roasty, smoky. Like, you know it's wanky, but there's like 6 words that end in Y. Because they're not proper words.
So prepared by like a recent, year 7 or something.
I think you win the wanky bollocks competition for this evening with that one. Definitely. Right, let's do a little bit of news. So, Jamie, serious news first, and then not so serious news after. So, news of the week, if you will, please, Jamie.
Yeah, so unfortunately, some very sad news to start off the pod. It emerged yesterday evening that Barry John, the legendary former Cardiff, Wales and British and Irish Lions fly-off, has died aged 79. After making his debut in 1966, John played in 25 tests for Wales and 5 tests for the British and Irish Lions. Barry John cemented his Lions legacy against the All Blacks in 1971 by playing a starring role in a historic 2-1 win over the hosts, who dubbed him the King. And that's something I found out this weekend. I thought it was a nickname that the Welsh media and supporters giving him. It was actually the New Zealand, it was the Kiwi media that dubbed him the King. That's how well respected he was. So it's just very sad news. He retired the following year as well after that, aged just 27. Barry John and his former Cardiff Alliance teammate Sir Gareth Edwards are regarded as one of the greatest halfback partnerships in rugby history. So, very sad news. The golden generation of Welsh legends, your JPRs, your Bennies, and etc. They're all dying out now, and it's really, really sad, isn't it, to see these players leave us. But I mean, what can you say? He was the King. He was one hell of a player. Any other thoughts, Lee? Are you old enough to remember him playing, Lee?
Oh, I'm older.
It's a genuine question. I'm not taking this though. Do you remember?
No, my dad trained against him once, and he said so. They trained. It must have been down in Milford for some reason. So because my dad used to play for Milford, so they trained down in Milford. And he said, so they trained for like an hour, and the pitches back in the 70s or 60s and 70s weren't the greatest. And he said everybody else came off absolutely caked in mud. He said Barry John was nobody got near him. He could have gone out for a couple of beers because the shirt was pristine. He said just nobody got near him. He said it was, don't know how, but he said every time he thought he was going to pass, he'd step you. Every time he thought he was going to step you, he'd pass. And he just, you just couldn't work out what he was going to do, So and everybody just loved him. They used to call him the George Best of rugby, didn't they? He was just that kind of character. So will be missed. Another one that'll be missed. Yep.
I used to see him quite a lot in the old arcade. Barry John, he was always drinking in the old arcade. Yeah, he loved his Carlin. Always drunk a pint of Carlin every time I saw him. But,
didn't buy a pint since 1972, did he?
Probably not.
I was listening to Cuthbert talking on TalkSport. One of the various people brought him to do tributes, and he said that Barry John bought him a pint in a pub in Cardiff once, and he didn't know who he was, as in Cuthbert didn't know who Barry John was when he found out afterwards, which I think is brilliant. Like sort of a lot about the modern internationals. But the tributes, the tribute from Gerald Davis from the other day was brilliant. There's that Gareth Edwards famous line, you throw it, I'll catch it, isn't it? Yeah, that Barry used to say to him, and apparently Barry used to commentate while playing, saying what he was going to do before he did it, and those sort of things. From one of the best tens has ever been, without doubt, one of the best players, without doubt. And that's it's obviously horrendously sad to see, but on the other side, there's so many brilliant clips going around. You mentioned the George Best connection, him and Barry John passing a football, I think, kicking a football to each other going along a pitch, and that obviously that brilliant try against England where he's slaloming between players, making them look like mannequins is incredible, isn't it?
There's a cracking photo of, I think it's him, Gareth Edwards, and John Toshak. And John Toshak's in a full Wales kit with a rugby ball. God, that would have been a bloody good team, wouldn't it? Tosh was in the centre. Nothing. I'm obviously quite young, so the name Barry John and the likes of these legends are stories passed down and video clips, but the bloke was a wizard, was a maverick, we were the number 10 factory for a reason, and he's arguably the first, the prototype of it.
Well, he was that good that when Phil Bennett made his debut when Barry John was playing, and Phil Bennett played fullback or wing, I think he did, because nobody moved Barry John, and so because they wanted Phil Bennett in the side, and I think he was fullback. That's where Phil Bennett made his Wales debut, and Barry John stayed at 10. That would have been a side. We'll talk about team selections and stuff later, but who do you put in the side, Barry John or Phil Bennett? I mean, wow, decisions to make, boys. Right. Yeah. What else have we got, Jim?
Okay, so reports today are saying that Wales are in talks to face South Africa at Twickenham in the final week of June. So this game would be a warm-up before Wales's 2-test series in Australia in July, while the Springboks are hosting Ireland on the same weekend. This proposed Wales-South Africa match in London would be held the weekend after the URC final. And also, according to BBC, they're saying that Wales are also exploring the possibility of a 4th Summer International in July, which would be staged the weekend after the second test against Australia. So that's quite interesting. It seems like the WRA are really trying to get these money spinners in now, aren't they, to fund the game. This is quite a lot of money spinning going on there. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, either of you.
I do.
Do you?
Sit back, boys. James is you've lit the fire. Sit back.
So when we did it, it was a disgrace to Welsh rugby. The WIU are now like, I want a bit of that in pie. No, what look in terms of the WIU have booked themselves out with concerts, right? Which fair enough, they bring in the cash. It's not, and that's one thing we're short of at the minute is cash. So and they still want to play the game. Let's not kid ourselves. None of our players are going to be involved in the URC final. So that's likely a full strength Wales team playing, maybe a South Africa team without their Bulls players or the Stormers players. The South African mark. Look how many turned up to Twickenham for South Africa, New Zealand before the World Cup, and all right, that game was a blowout. But it was a bloody good atmosphere there. That's the loudest Twickenham's been in years.
Could it not have been played somewhere in Wales? Wrexham or Liberty, or do you know what I mean? Just to take the opportunity to move it around Wales. I know
Swans have probably got a game that day.
There isn't a relegation playoff, mate.
But do you know what I mean? It was an opportunity. Remember, a couple of years back, we played a couple of games pre-World Cup warm-up games up in Wrexham and stuff like that, just to kind of move the game around Wales and stuff like that. And I know, you want to put 80,000 in the stadium and all that kind of stuff, but it's just an opportunity to do something like that.
If they were playing anyone else other than South Africa, I would be inclined to agree with you. But as we come back to the South African population in London and around London, and
Welsh up there. I lived up there for 8 years. There's loads of taps in
it's high. So anyone else other than South Africa, I fully believe they might have played one in the Swans.com or even Ashton Gates. Do you know what I mean? So, somewhere like that. Yeah.
I just don't think those stadiums are big enough. I think for what the WIU want this to be, those stadiums wouldn't have been big enough. I think regardless, it would have been in Twickers, but Twickers, oh god, that sounds terrible. But you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
I don't know what this is doing to me, but it's just coming across, isn't it?
That's a baby sham fine for the next time you're on, mate. That is absolutely.
Yeah, I'll take that. But you know what I mean? It doesn't sit well with me. I think they're not 100% sure who the home side are at the moment, but whatever that situation is, it'll bring money through the door, and that's all. It's one of those situations. You slate the situation where there's not enough money in the game at the moment, and then slate the WRU for gaining more money. I can see their side of it in that. I know there's lots of talk of where that money's going, and I understand that completely. But at least, if you're the players, you're going to be frustrated. That's for certain, because there's an extra game on top. If there's 4 games in the international window in the summer and then 4 in the autumn, you're playing 13 a year. That's on the back of a World Cup, on the way into a Lions year.
There's a serious player issue here, because certain players haven't had a time off really since the 2021 Lions tour. So you look at someone, I'm just using him example because he was on that tour, but someone like Adam Beard, right, has played rugby pretty much non-stop from 2021 Lions tour, where he was called up instead of James Ryan. Sorry, I had to get that in there. And then has pretty much played ever since, and has not had a break because he's been in the test teams. He's been in the World Cup squads. It's a serious player welfare issue.
Yeah.
And you want to add a 4th test to that? Just again, I'm not saying we don't need the cash. We do, but a pointless 4th test screams like a 13-all draw with Fiji, where we need like a Nicky Robinson drop goal. But it does. It's like like the one where we barely beat Japan with Sam Davis playing 10. That's what the 4th test screams to me. There, it's a pointless one in the autumn. The stag do test.
It's a money spinner, though, isn't it? And that's why this game is in Twickenham. It does make sense to play South Africa in Twickenham. If you're going to play a game at Wrexham with Wales, that's the perfect venue where you host someone like Portugal, because South Africa playing Portugal, a
Japan.
Smaller nation. Japan, you wouldn't host South Africa in Wrexham, no way. But it's just a money spinner, and it makes sense to have it in London due to the expat communities.
I think it's a shame that we don't play more of those smaller sides in those kind of places. I know because of the Millennium Stadium and it's owned by the WRU and all that kind of stuff, but you just think at some point somebody's got to organise the season a bit better, the whole season for everyone around the world. Sit down again, have another chat, because
like a global season?
Like a global season. Imagine that, James. Go on.
That's too radical idea. That won't work. That won't work.
But when you look at how that works in terms of, like we're talking about player welfare, and, for some players, you'll go into the Six Nations, and then the week off you'll play in a European Cup game, and then you'll go back into a Six Nations. Do you know what I mean? It's not, you come out of the Six Nations, you play another European Cup. It doesn't feel very organised in terms of player welfare. The reason they split the Six Nations into separate groups with a break in the middle was for player welfare. The idea was is that if you were involved in the Six Nations squads, you didn't play on those in between weeks, and now we put really important games on those in between weeks and then straight after and all that kind of stuff. Just needs a little bit more thought and organisation, I think.
It's revenue, isn't it? International rugby is the biggest revenue for the game, so that's why they're keen to have as many tests as they can. Like, Karen's through to, I get it, but it's just the games become pointless. They don't mean anything, do they? There's nothing on the line. They are just glorified friendlies. So that's the only issue, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd like to play more in the summer where you can actually go out and have a beer for the day instead of hiding it fucking 3 degrees below. The amount of times that people, when we play Ireland away, the amount of times the ferry gets caught in the harbour and it can't dock, and then the ferry company's got to give you free beer. Oh, it's a mess. It's a mess. Anyway,
that sounds good.
My dad did it twice. Twice he went to watch Ireland. Both times he got caught. Once he went from Pembroke Dock, once he went from Fishguard, and both times the ferry couldn't. One time it couldn't leave Ireland, but they weren't allowed back off the ferry, so they had to sit in the ferry, and then they gave them free beer. And the other time it came into Fishguard, and it couldn't dock in Fishguard, so they gave him free beer again. And he never went to Ireland after that. So bizarre. Anyway, anything else, Jamie?
No, that's it. That's it for the news.
That's it. Okay, so we missed beer, beef and bants last weekend, James. We didn't have a massive amount of beer, beef and bants last week because you weren't here and
No, but you're gonna take the piss
training.
though, isn't it?
Training.
I listened to that, and I listened to your comments as well about how I pause the pod every time I message you, and I do because you're often wrong, and you deserve to be called out. And have you noticed? I only pause it on the points when you're talking. So
it's a fair point, Lee.
It's because the Ospreys are shit. Anyway, beef and bants. Carry on.
Yeah, this week there's only one beef, and it's the most talked about thing in Welsh Rugby Twitter at the minute is that Tom Shanklin team that he put out on an unnamed BBC Wales show on the weekend. For those who don't know, the team is pretty standard until you get to the number 14, because in it and wearing it is let me just check my notes here. Fly half and fullback, Ioan Lloyd. Ioan Lloyd, the famed winger, who I believe has played winger at club level before. I'm not, but playing against Newcastle Falcons on a Friday and England at Twickenham is two slightly different things, right? Ioan Lloyd on the fucking wing. Like, he struggles at 10 or fullback for the Scarlets. Like, he's like, and it's not like I'm taking away his performance on Saturday, right? Because he did play well on Saturday when he came on, and the system changed, whatever. He's not a test winger. Why are we weakening? And what? So remind me, did he put Costello at 10? That's what I'm assuming he did. He put Costello at 10. We pretty much know Costello is going to be out. So that was a nasty HIA that he got. So Ioan Lloyd is expected to start at 10. And you're probably looking at Kai Evans coming onto the bench, which is a sensible option at Twickenham. Because if we know one thing about this Wales team from Saturday, and I'll move on to this, is they can eke penalties out of a team. And you want someone like Kai Evans coming on 50, 60 minutes who can bang penalties over from 40, 50 metres out. That's what you want at Twickenham. And Lee, I know you're itching to say the word Joe Roberts, right? But I'm
still fixated on Tom Shanklin, mate. I'm still in that zone.
So yeah. So but that I tweeted it off the Irie account. Like, the best time to delete that tweet was about 4 minutes after they uploaded it, because they uploaded it by mistake. And Karen was saying before we came on air, there's a point where Jiffy's just looking at him like a madman. It reminds me of when. Do you remember when Brian Moore had basically a kind of meltdown on air? I think it was during England versus Italy.
Yeah,
and England keep kicking the ball away, and Brian Moore is about for God's sake and all this angry Northern
he's kicked
stuff.
it again.
Yeah, and Jiffy, it's like Ian Bolshaw's sat on top of a rack or something. He's like, "What the hell are you doing? You're a fullback." And Jiffy now, that the man who shouts numbers at everything, like a crazy mathematician, it sort of has to turn to him and say, "Come on, pull yourself together now." we all want England to play better. To play them centre. It's like, why is Jiffy being the sensible one? Like, I haven't watched the unnamed BBC show for this reason, because
the unnamed BBC show.
I'm just aware.
So can you say the name
tonight? I'm just aware of who's on tonight. Right.
So hang on. So I got two points to pick up on your beef and bants. One, let me adjust my notes. Who the fuck thinks you make notes? One, about this show, or two, about like beef and bants? I mean, come on, James. Keep it realistic, man.
I'll show you my notes now.
It's a podcast, mate. People can't see what you're doing if they're listening, yeah? So, I know what he's going to write as well. This is really annoying. I know what he's going to write. It's going to be something about Joe Roberts, isn't it?
It's flipped, isn't it? You want to do this shit. There we are. No, I do, believe it or not, I was actually writing out my Wales team for England just in case. I was like, let me put it in my on my notepad before I forget it. And I was saying like Rhys Henry at tight end.
The other thing I was going to say, right? So when you name that unnamed rugby show on a Sunday night at 6 o'clock on BBC Two, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about people that copy our ideas,
Oh, hello.
3-word thoughts was done this weekend by the IRB.
Who's the IRB?
IRB, they don't exist.
The IRB haven't been a thing since 2008.
World Rugby.
Good to see you got your finger on the pulse as always, Lee.
World Rugby. The World Rugby account tweeted, give us your 3-word thoughts after. And I'm like, fuck off. And I messaged them. I said, no, we invented that, you bastards. And they deleted my comment. So, but we've been doing that for years. And now, as soon as other people kind of see, oh, that's working quite well. And I didn't do it this weekend. But, yeah. Oh, yeah, did it on Twitter, didn't we? Yeah, it worked quite well. So, yeah, they're fucking nicking our ideas as well. Bastards.
Right. This is just into an on-air admin meeting now. Jamie, you got your hand up.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Jamie?
Yeah, can I just make a quick point about the unnamed BBC show? And in particular, Ioan Lloyd. I think Welsh Rugby needs to be careful now with Ioan Lloyd, because I'm worried that he's going to turn into a jack of all trades and a master of none. So they had a debate. I do want to say James Hook, but, yes.
James Hook.
So he was picked at wing by Shankman. And like you said, when Jiffy said, well, on the wing, his reason was, yeah, have you seen him play for Bristol there? And it's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean he should be starting against England Twickenham in a test match, And then Jiffy was saying that he would pick Ioan Lloyd at 13. Because his argument was, we lack creativity. We need a centre that lacks creativity and a footballing ability. And first of all, there's two things that, firstly, we already have that in the squad. His name is Joe Roberts, as you well know, Lee. He is the person who's going to create. No, but he is. He is that creative footballing centre.
He's good, yeah.
But secondly, we can't be in the business of shunting Ioan Lloyd here, there, and everywhere, because I do think it will harm his development. I think Ioan Lloyd needs to stay in one position and hone his craft and get better at it. So Welsh Rugby needs to decide, is he a 10? Is he a fullback? I know they can interchange, but he needs to decide what is his best position, because let's be honest, we still don't know. And don't be putting him on the wing, and don't be putting him outside centre. Don't, pull the guy from pillar.
I like him at 12.
No, fuck.
Oh, see, this is the issue I'm talking about. No, we need to decide.
No.
Literally, just the point I'm making.
My reasoning was is like 2 seasons ago, Bristol played Scarlets.
Scarlets.
At Parker Scarlets.
Sorry.
and Ioan Lloyd was at 12, and he cut through. He was getting that hot. He was hot shit at 12
against the Scarlets.
No, I remember
that is true.
I remember that game, and as I remember that game, we had a one-legged seagull playing at inside centre as well. That was fucking ages ago, mate. And Jamie's right. He needs to pick it. It's okay to have 2 players that are really good in the same position. Go on, Carl.
He's a 10. Wants to play 10. Let him play 10. I don't really. We tried him at fullback a couple of years ago, and I got to be honest, he looked. Well, he was a kid, in fairness. That's the first thing I should say. He was a kid at the time. He was 19 or whatever in those COVID games. But he looked too young and wasn't right. The wing thing, like, I get it. Max Malins was a 10, played wing, became an international wing. But long term, that hasn't really worked. And then you've got, and he had a couple of good games of the wing. Ioan Lloyd, that brilliant finish that he had against, I can't remember where it was, where he steps in, sort of Shane Williams-esque, steps in, steps out, gets in the corner, but he's a 10. He wants to play 10. He's moved back to play 10. Just let him play 10. We're going to need him to play 10 this week. That's clearly the case. The other beef that I've actually got with Shanklin is the play he left out for Ioan Lloyd on the wing was Rio Dyer, who I thought was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that's weird.
And you've got Ryan.
That wasn't brilliant. That was fucking abysmal. What is he playing at? Rio's been in great form.
Yeah,
but then he did also he left out Josh Adams. because he had Mason Grady
That's
on the other
but
one. And that's how we'll talk
less-
about later.
Yeah, that's less thing. He's like Josh Adams isn't in my squad.
We've got the old Fiji boss calling Rio Dyer, say he could be a superstar in the next couple of years. Like,
Samuel Louis knows his stuff, mate. I listened to him. I went on Tom Shanklin personally.
Oh.
He knows his stuff.
I don't think there needs to be more to say. Rio should start. That's that was actually my major issue with it, more than Johan Lloyd at win, which I did wonder about which was the worst. But
I'm honestly surprised he didn't pick himself.
I think the issue with Johan Lloyd is it's his game control. And that's something that he'll only learn by playing there. And that's what's been frustrating at the minute is the amount of time he finds himself at the bottom of a ruck or, not knowing when to kick. And unfortunately, you've got to go through that pain of getting a bollocking every week of going, where was the space? Why didn't we kick? Where was the space? Why didn't we offload? Why did you take that into contact? And it might take a while, but I think that's, when he's at the same club as Costello, and that puts everyone in a really difficult position because you want Costello to get the experience of just consistently playing. Let's not forget he was injured at the end of the World Cup, wasn't he? Did he play a game for Scarlets?
No.
He got injured. He got injured at the end of the World Cup, didn't he? So he's not played from then. He's come back. He's played one game at Christmas for the Scarlets, and then he's back into the Wales squad. And then he's played Six Nations, and then he's fucked with the HIA again. So
in between that, he got the HIA against who are you away at?
European game.
Claymont.
Yeah.
The HIA.
So
I have another thing about Johan Lloyd as well. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't be having this conversation if he was playing in a winning Scarlets team. Because, like you said, winning breeds confidence. He's playing in a winning system, but he's not at the minute. So I'm not pinning Scarlets being shit on Johan Lloyd. There are plenty of things wrong with the Scarlets, right? Johan Lloyd being a 10 isn't necessarily one of them.
But when he's played 15 for us, actually, that works for us.
Yeah, you only lost by like a bit less than you would.
I don't necessarily think it works at international level, but at club level, I think it does work.
I do agree.
But one last thing on Johan Lloyd. What the fuck has he got going on?
Oh, yeah.
It looks like a Hitler tash. It looks like one of these things.
He's got the unfortunate Steven Gerrard hairline as well, isn't he? So it doesn't help. It's thinning on top, but just oh yeah. I think John Daniel needs to get his pay up and he needs to go to Turkey very quickly.
He needs to come around my house. I'll sort him out. We'll sort this stuff out on the tash there. I think he can go with probably one of these like half moon kind of beardy things, but this thing on the top there.
Careful now! You got in trouble on Twitter for talking about players' hairstyles.
I know. People don't like it, mate. People don't like it.
I will also say Johan Lloyd is a Glant half boy, so let's not say anything bad about him because he's.
I forgot he's Glant half.
He's a good boy.
Right.
But I am going to add one other thing. The final ridiculous thing I assume we're going to talk about the game is what was the major issue? Well, one of the major issues with the backs on the weekend in the first half was there were no ball carriers, and you want to play Johan Lloyd on the wing,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Anyway.
So let's do a little bit of a YouTube poll here, guys. Okay, everybody, raise your hands if you agree with Tom Shanklin. James, is those? Oh, I think James has just raised his hand in.
I wouldn't agree with Tom Shanklin if he told me the sky was blue, mate. I'd have to go check.
Right, let's move on to discussing the events of the weekend. So, as we just mentioned it, before we discuss first half, second half, and all that kind of stuff, Costello's HIA should was it a rugby incident? If that's a yellow card, and the play, I don't know, none of it sits fine with me. If it's a rugby incident, then it's not a yellow card. But if it's a yellow card, I think it's more. So. Your thoughts?
I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
I looked at it, and at first glance, I thought, "Oh, hello, you might be in trouble here." I think it was Crosby. Was it Crosby?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. What I will say is that Crosby is running a very dangerous game in terms of he's not allowed to go down with the player off his feet because that's been outlawed. But what he was doing, there's absolutely nothing wrong. It was essentially three men all bent to the hips in very legal positions. Yeah, and just an unfortunate clash of heads not even clash of heads, shoulder to head has occurred. It's not anything. And I don't like to quote Carl Dixon because I don't like him, but he is right in saying not all head contact is foul play. And that wasn't foul play. And that's spot on by the referee and team.
Okay, Carl?
So my 2 pence, well, he's mentioned Carl Dixon there. Well, I'm a little bit worried about this one because I still think the Nick Tompkins one in the World Cup is a card, right? That's a
card. Yeah.
And what frustrated me was Carl Dixon was referee on Friday night and gives 2 yellows to Paul Willems for very similar instances to the Nick Tompkins one. That's the first thing I want to say. What I will say is on the weekend, Ben O'Keefe was consistent with those 2 decisions, which is the Luke Crosby one on Sam Costello and the Azarati one on Luke Crosby, which I'm not saying was retribution, but but it's I think at least those 2 are consistent inside the game, and that I would like to see more consistency throughout the whole of rugby and world rugby. It's difficult with the game we know and love and hate at times, but I think at least within those 80 minutes, that decision itself was consistent in that if you look at Azarati's one, Azarati's bent at his hips, has gone to wrap, has made contact with Luke Crosby's head, nothing's given. And the same thing happened with Luke Crosby's clear out on Sam Costello. So yeah, at least they were consistent with that. And I probably do agree with James that I don't see what else Crosby could have done really. Initially, like James, I thought he could have been in trouble, but I can't really see what else he can do.
So nobody thinks we should leave the pretty boys from the Scarlets alone. I'm disappointed, boys. I'm disappointed. The pretty boys have a place on the pitch and they need to be protected. Hang on a second. You were drinking stout a second ago. What the fuck's that?
Yeah, I switched to a pale ale, but how long are we into the pod? It's dragging me.
Right, let's talk about the rest of the game then. So let's summarize it as what went wrong in the first half and what changed in the second. So who wants to go first? Jamie, go on. You can go first on that, Jamie.
What went wrong in the first half? I mean, pretty much everything, wasn't it? Can I just say, look, I grew up watching Wales. I was born in the 80s and I grew up watching Wales in the 90s, right? I saw a lot of bad Wales performances growing up as a kid. I think, and I don't know about you, Leaks, obviously, you're older than me, you've seen more Wales games. You are, because you'd be older than me. That was the worst 40 minutes I've ever seen from Wales. Honestly, for me, I cannot think, unless any of you guys can think of a worse 40 minutes from Wales in the first half. You can. Maybe you could say South Africa.
No,
they got walloped.
Ireland 2013 at home.
The Fiji 16
0 at half time.
Fiji.
I think this was worse than that.
We played Fiji on a Friday night. We drew 16-all with a penalty in the last 3 minutes or whatever, and half of the crowd were asleep. That's how bad that game was. So
the Ireland one is a good shout. I do remember that one, but for me, this just felt like the worst performance because I just couldn't see what Wales were trying to do. And I know Wales have got a reputation being slow starters, but let's be honest, this was absolutely ridiculous, wasn't it? Our kicking game was atrocious. The kick chase was non-existent. The halfbacks struggled. I thought Gareth Davis was very, very poor. I think it was right to start him because there was a big debate about whether you start Thomas Williams or Gareth Davis. And I actually think because of the way Wales was set up in that game plan, I think if Thomas Williams had started, he probably would have been just as poor. I just think there was the tactics the first half, now game plan just wasn't right. Costello, some of his kicking was aimless, wasn't it? Really aimless. It's he was sat too deep in the pocket, aimless kicking. it was just the set piece struggle, the line out, that malfunctioned terribly, didn't there? 5 missed line outs in the first half. And look, you can't put it all on Ryan Elias, because I think that's unfair, because the line out is a collective effort. But I did say to you in the WhatsApp group, Elliot D will come on and you show up the line out. And lo and behold, he did. That's not a coincidence, because the thing about Ryan Elias is this, right? And this is his biggest fault. I really like Ryan Elias, and I get why he's in the Wales team, because he is Wales' best scrummaging hooker. He offers a lot of physicality around the park. He's a good ball carrier. But the issue with Ryan Elias has always been, I know you hate the word like arrows and darts, but his throwing in has been a big problem for a long time. And that's the one area of this game that really lets him down. Like I said, it is a collective effort. You can't put it all on Ryan Elias. But it was no coincidence to me. As soon as D came on, it was better. It was just awful that first half, wasn't it? Like I say, I have no idea what the game plan was. I don't think Wales did. I mean, Gatland said that we showed them too much respect. Well, why? Why are we showing Scotland too much respect? We're not being disrespectful by saying that, but we're not playing New Zealand, South Africa here. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I can't understand why we're giving Scotland so much respect, given the fact that we have that home record. We should have been bolder. And when it was 27-0 down, when Durant scores our try in the second half, you're thinking, this could be 50, 60 points a year. And it was getting embarrassing. And what went right for me in that second half, it was like the shackles came off a little bit. It was almost like, well, we got nothing to lose now. The damage is done. Let's just go up there and play some rugby. And when we did that, when we played with a bit more freedom, and we cut out the aimless kicking, and we cut out the errors, and we cut out the penalties, because we didn't concede another penalty in that second half, which is quite remarkable, really, isn't it? That we didn't concede another penalty in that second half. We just played so much better. And, Wainwright was superb. He really was. I mean, he was in full on, fuck it, I'll do it myself mode in the second half, wasn't he? He was absolutely fantastic. And I know there's a big debate there with him and Reffel, possibly again player of the match. I thought both were excellent. Reffel were coming up trumps with key turnovers, but I just thought Wainwright was absolutely superb. Rio Dyer was electric. Really impressed with the subs. They all made an impact. Thomas Williams was brilliant. Alex Mann was fantastic. And I think he's put himself now in the frame to start the trick of them, because I thought both of them was okay, but Alex Mann was really, really good. Great moment for him scoring that try. I was really impressed with Cam Winnett as well. He looked a bit shaky first half. You could tell he was nervous, but in the second half, I just thought he looked more composed, more assured, and it just seemed to be like Wales let the shackles go, and were a lot more adventurous, a lot more bold, and I think maybe that's the way going forward, because whatever the hell that game plan was, I have no idea. But people were having a pop, Warren Gatland saying, oh, he's not taking any responsibility. To be fair, after the game, he told us, well, he actually apologised. And he said it was the worst 40-minute performance in my whole rugby career as a coach. So he did take responsibility. And it's quite clear now. I think from the weekend, the one thing I will say, the learnings from this test are Warren Ball now might be coming to an end. Because we cannot play this way anymore. We haven't got the likes of Jonathan Davis. We haven't got the likes of Jamie Roberts. George North is still there, but he's not the player he was. Alex Cuthbert. We cannot play with all these young kids now, this new era. We cannot play the way we used to. We haven't got that power game, because we came second best in a lot of the collisions in that game. So Wales now have got to find a style. They've got to find a system that suits this new crop of players. But hell of a game, brilliant comeback. Did we think, though, that we was going to come back and do it? I did. I did. I honestly thought we were going to do it. But that missed line-out in the 74th minute, that stolen line-out by Scotland, that was an absolute killer, wasn't it?
Yeah,
absolute killer.
Pass.
Yeah, but that line-out for me is fair. In the 70, at that moment, mate, we were well on top. All the momentum was with Wales. And that line-out, that stolen line-out, for me, that was the moment. And credit to Scotland. I mean, we have got to give credit to Scotland. They had this hoodoo hanging over them. They were under a lot of pressure. They came down as big favourites. And yeah, they were fantastic first half. As poor as Wales were, Scotland were very good, but they did manage those last 5 minutes of the game very well. They weathered the storm, and they won by the skin of the teeth, yes. But to be fair, it's when they came down and they got the job done. But we cannot afford a slow start like that again. And if they start like that up in Twickenham, Wales are not going to come back from it. I can tell you that now.
So Carwyn, question for you, right? And this did the runs on Twitter and what have you. So Warren Gatland's called out apparently Josh Adams for throwing the ball away.
Yeah.
So 3 points, penalty, blah 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 blah. Firstly, I think if from that lineup they would have driven it over and they would have had 5. Myself, that's kind of the way that game was going at the minute.
But we don't know that, do we? We don't know that
No,
for certain.
but
you can't say that, but we don't know.
So, couple of questions for you, Carl. So, what the fuck was going through Josh Adams' head? And is Gatland right to call him out? And is he right to suggest that he gets dropped because of it?
First one, what's going through his head? Well, it's off the back of the 50-22, isn't it? It's the Cam win it, lollop into the midfield kick. And I second what Jamie said on Cam. I thought he did grow into the game, but that kick is dog shit. I got to be honest. Like, it is a lollop into midfield that Finn Russell's picked up and smashed 50 yards plus into the 22, and it was a brilliant kick, but it was easily done. Then Josh has reacted to it and picked it up and put it over the hoardings. All he needed to do was touch the ball. He doesn't need to do that. It's cynical play. It's stupid play. And I gotta be honest, it's something that started to come into Josh's game. I don't remember seeing Josh do stupid things in his first 10 caps, first 20 caps. I don't remember anything that I would have gone, oh, that was stupid play, Josh. But I've seen it come into his game more. And let's be honest, there's 5 players in this squad with more than 50 caps. Josh is one of them. So to answer your second question, he's spot on. If you can't have a go at Josh, who can you have a go at? George, Gareth, yeah. Who else do you have a go at? Because it was stupid play. It was dumb play. And I do think it was inevitable is the word that Scotland might, well, it seemed inevitable Scotland had all the momentum and possibly would have pushed over, but it is simple 3 points that Scotland were just kicking in that first half. And I struggle to see how Josh keeps his place. His overall performance, he didn't. I don't know if you guys caught all the absolute balmy before kickoff, will they, won't they start, and all that sort of bizarre situation. But Josh and Tompkins were being discussed as non-starters before kickoff. WIU said there was going to be a team update at 3:45, an hour before the game. There was no team update. So I don't know what the hell that was going on about, but when you're working on the live page for the game, that was an absolute disaster. But yeah, Josh's game, I think some people are saying he wasn't fit. I think to be honest, he was being asked to do something that wasn't really his game. He was Wales's main ball carrier in that back division. I think he was the main ball carrier in the first half. I think he carried it 6 times versus whatever the forwards did. I can't remember. But how on earth is Josh Adams off the Premier ball carrier? Like, that is not his game. It's just not his game.
But the amount of times he ended up in the forwards. So when we're running tight ball, and you'd normally expect a back row or a second row or a prop to be taken up, and Josh Adams pops up in the middle, and I'm like, what the heck? It's not like we were short of numbers. He's chosen to go and stand it, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe this is. Are we doing something different? Are we running something? Is it no? We're just taking the ball into contact, and I didn't get that bit. I get wanting to get involved in the game and getting your hands on the ball, but running into a 6'8" second row, no.
And that's part of it, isn't it? There's something for taking ownership, taking responsibility, and getting involved, and there's using your smart at when can you be best used. Like, there's a reason Lucy Samet was never doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was standing out the wing because he knew his best assets were to kick over the top and chase it and that sort of thing. But I'm a big fan of Josh. I think Josh is one of the best wingers over the last 5 years in international rugby. I really do count him that highly. I would say there's very few ahead of him. But I thought on the weekend, one, I thought he was misused, but 2, I thought he was just not at it as where he should be. And I struggle to see when you've got someone like Grady who's been playing lights out week in, week out for Cardiff. And I'm not just saying that from the Cardiff pod. It is just factually correct. Like, he has been playing lights out. He deserves to start, and as we mentioned earlier, Rio was so brilliant. He does lose his place. So where does Josh play? Bench only.
With the Gatland thing, though, what I didn't like, I mean, yes, it was incredibly dumb. Gatland was right. It was dumb. It was stupid. And it did annoy me because Josh is an experienced player now. We have a young group and we need the senior players, which Josh is now. He needs to lead by example. And I was not leading by example. It was just so needless, wasn't it? He didn't need to do it. And that's what really frustrated me. It was a needless 3 points. So I completely get Gatland saying he was dumb because he was. The one thing he said, though, which I didn't agree with, he said, when you think about it, that's the difference between winning and losing the game. Josh's penalty. No, I don't agree with that because you could pick out several moments in that game. That was the difference between winning and losing. So if you go back to the first half, just before the first half, Johan Lloyd, we win a penalty, he misses touch. That would have given us a 5-meter lineup. That was a key moment. You had the misconversion from Rio Dyer's try. That would have given us points. That stolen line out in the 74th minute that I talked about earlier. That was all those added up. So to put it all on Josh's penalty, I don't think it's fair because there were other moments that cost Wales the game. You can't put solely on Josh. So I thought it was a little bit unfair by that.
See, I think that's I personally think that's misinterpreted because for all disclosure, I was the one writing down the quotes of what Gatland said. So
that came from the BBC, mate. It's from the BBC.
That was him.
Yeah, that was me.
Well, that's what it said.
No,
but it's not true, is it?
Well, no, it is. That is what you factually said. But I think what he actually means is that in the end of the day, it was a difference of 1 point, which is a penalty. So if you take away those 3 points, Scotland don't necessarily win the game. And I think he's talking more about the margin of victory as opposed to calling out Josh Adams as a singular moment, if that makes any sense. Which I understand. I'm not. That was my interpretation of watching the interview and writing it down, was that he was saying, all right, I've seen the game was lost by a point and we conceded 3 needless points, which, let's be honest about it, at the end of the day, the difference was a point. If that makes sense. I don't think he's saying this was the singular moment that cost us the game. But
okay. It didn't come across that way, but I get your point. Yeah, of course he was there, so fair enough.
Yeah, that was my interpretation. But I still stand by it. I think when you're in more experienced players do stuff like that, you've got to call them out.
Absolutely.
So, James, let's talk about the important part of the game, the forwards.
Yep.
You know, this is where the real pretty boys exist up front. Let's be honest. So, lineouts, right? Scotland had 4 lineouts for the whole of the game. They had 4 lineouts, and they lost 2 of them. We had 16 lineouts, I think it was, and lost 7 of them, which is less than 50%. So we won more percentage-wise. We actually won more lineouts than Scotland. So talk to me about lineouts. Talk to me about scrums, and then tell me what do we change for that England game.
With lineouts, you've got 3 main components. The 4 technically. You've got the call. You've got your lifters. You've got your jumper. So, how high they get, which obviously depends on the lifters, but also the quality of their catch. And then you've got the throw, right? Now, Ryan Elias's darts, and I've not been keeping track specifically on stats, but have not been, this season has not been his best, right? If you look at the Scarlets around, like, if you look at both Ospreys games at Christmas, Scarlets had a 64% lineup completion rate in the first game, the one at the Swans.com Stadium, in which that build up to that game was touted as Ryan Elias versus Dewi Lake as sort of this audition piece for Six Nations. And Dewi Lake hit 100% of his darts, and Ryan Elias struggled. In the reverse fixture, it was around 80%. Now, on Saturday, I don't believe that all of these were Ryan Elias's fault. As much as I like hanging him out to dry, okay, because he's a Scarlets player, I do believe it was the call. There's one where Wainwright can't hold on to it. There's so many components into it. In terms of what they changed Jonathan Humphreys. If I'm fucking honest with you.
James Jonathan. How does that work then?
He's stealing a living. But the line has been an Achilles heel. And the call comes from Adam Beard, right? and he's a proven lineup caller. I know he's the subject of a lot of slack online, right? But he's a proven lineup caller, okay, and one has worked with Gatland for many, many years. Okay, I think people forget that Adam Beard went on like a 15-game winning streak or something like that when he first made his debut. Right, he was an integral part of that Gatland 2019 Wales pack. Okay, he deserved his call up to 2020 Lions tour. Is he as effective around the field? No, that's a different discussion. His call needs to be better. Now, look at the second half lineups. Right, Elliot D comes on. I think he performs much better. Right, and I like Elliot. I always have. He's got 47 Wales caps now. I don't think he's ever let Wales down in any one of them caps. He's a constant 6.5, 7 out of 10 player. And that's not me disparaging him. That's good if you go and have rugby ratings, right? That's a good performance every time. And he's never really got a run in that starting jersey. And I think with Dewi Lake out now, he deserves that. His arrows are great. His carrying's great. My worry is who is the other line-out caller in that team? Because Dow Jenkins is not a natural line-out caller. He doesn't call, as far as I'm aware, he doesn't call the line-out at Exeter. Teddy Williams, is he a line-out caller? No. And, Cardiff's line-out isn't squeaky. And then Will Rowlands is not a line-out caller either.
They could be the pairing though at Twickenham. It could well be Jenkins and Rowlands. So who's going to call the line out?
This is what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's so many components. It's very easy to say drop Adam Beard because he doesn't offer enough around the park. But you are losing a very integral part of the game. And Cardiff Rugby Life put a very good tweet out about saying when we scored that, when we mauled that try over, okay, that's Adam Beard because he shifts that maul ever so slightly to the right, breaks off, and Aaron Wainwright does very well in that and taking the defenders away. They go over. Carwyn, you're itching to say something.
Sorry, I was just about to say another thing Cardiff Rugby Life said, which was second half. If you look at the amount of competed lineouts, it's drastically lower than the first half. As in whether Scotland were competing. I think it's something like D wins. I think there's only 2 lineouts that he throws that are competed, and then the other 4 he wins, but are all uncontested. And you're like, so is that all, Elias? But the other thing I'd say is I personally think the line-out calling was poor because it seemed as if almost everyone was going to Wainwright, and surely anyone in the world knows if you're struggling in the line-out, you stop throwing to the back ball, you just secure ball possession and go to the front. And you
do say that though, but who was Wales's main line-out jumper for years and go-to man?
Tipuric.
Justin Tipuric.
Yeah. But see, this is where I think they actually worked Wainwright well because he started at the back of the line, and then I think they used him at 2 at one point in the line. So yes, it's the same person, and I thought for him to jump, I think he jumped in 3 different positions. He jumped back, he jumped at 5, and he jumped at 2. Jumping at 5 is really difficult because you're not got a natural. You go 2, 4, 6, and 5 is a really difficult position to jump. So for him to do that actually says to me, maybe he's the one that needs to be calling those lineouts because actually he gets the difference between front and back. Do you know what I mean?
Calling and jumping is a very different thing. Calling and executing it.
You kids today, you don't. Back in my day, we didn't used to have calls. One of the fuckers at the front would throw it. We'd all jump, and one of us would fucking catch it.
And now you've all got CTE. Yeah.
And then we'd have a fight. Then we'd stamp on the ref, and at some point, somebody throw a new ball in. No,
but
I very. Go on.
Very quickly, the scrums as well. The scrums were as bad as probably they could have been. I think that front row against a better scrummaging team will get destroyed. There's some wild takes flying around on Twitter that Corey Domachowski is now the best loosehead in Europe.
Who said that? No one with any credibility.
Believe it or not, he's
Cardiff
a
fan,
Scarlet
I bet.
No, he's a Scarlet fan.
Really?
Yeah.
Get a grip.
Mind you,
He put in a good shift, mind. I tell you what,
he did. I'm about to come on to that.
He picked up a knock.
Yeah, he was Wales' top forward carrier.
Yeah.
I thought he went really well around the park. It does say a lot that Gatlin kept him on for 80. That's a really big statement.
So why is that then? Lack of confidence in Kelsey Mathias?
Yeah, I'm going to come out and say it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a lack of confidence in Kelsey Mathias. And, you know, I like Domacochis, right? He's very good.
Doma who?
I think Domacochis.
Domacochis.
That's what I call him.
Right.
Look, if Kieran Maserati's going to be called Maserati, right, Domachosi's been called Domacochis. But it's a serious lack of confidence. Leon Brown was quiet.
He was all right with it. Yeah, he didn't do anything
pretty well. I think Maserati probably deserves to come into that starting lineup.
I think he will next week. Yeah,
I think you'll see Domachowski, D, and Maserati.
What do you think they'll start, D, though? Because the thing with D, by the way, you are right. Excellent play. I'm not biased at all, but you are right. He's never let Wales down. Very reliable at the lineup. The only thing I would say, though, if you look at Elliott's best performances for Wales, they've always been off the bench. He's more of an impact player for Wales. That's the only thing. So they may decide to stick with Ryan and then bring Elliott back on for that impact.
So all I would like to see is Sam Parry's getting called back up, right? As the only trusted source of line-up ball in Wales, but because I could see Elliott D starting and Ryan Elias coming on.
I can't see right how you can have that many players in camp for that long, with a dedicated line-out coach, and still not get it right on the day. I don't know why. You must practice those line-outs in a live match situation over and over and over because it's important. Same as you practice scrum. Practice scrum against the machine and all that kind of stuff. You practice it on the videos. You practice it against the active scrum machine, and then you practice it against people. Yeah, and whoever that is, whether it's the 20s, whether they pull other players in, whichever way it is, I don't understand how you get to match day and we can't get the timing of the jump and the throw right. It's all that jigsaw bit, but it's like we've been shown the jigsaw before and we've been given all the pieces and we've got all the jigsaw laid out in front of us. We just literally need to pick one piece up and put it in, and we're trying to find different ways of doing it. I don't get it. I don't understand how a professional team at international level can't get that right.
But that's the same. That you could say that about everything in rugby, though.
But no, because you haven't got, like, even on a scrum, you've got somebody pushing back against you. But on a scrum, reasonably, you should have a plan A and a plan B. If we're going arseways, here's a channel one ball. Let's get the fucking thing out the way.
In that case, why do goal kickers miss it?
Because they're not very good, and they're too busy fannying around with their hair and worrying about their makeup and making sure their socks are looking good, rather than focusing on putting the ball between the fucking sticks. That's why. Go on, Carl.
Bring this back to the world of reality. I just wanted to say that, like, this is the same. It's basically the same setup that we had when we went 100 for 100 in, whatever it was, 12 for 12, 100% against Australia. So that's one thing. The frustration for me, I look along that, and the players that we have been saying didn't have their best game, and everyone's been saying, obviously, young Wales team, they are more the experienced players. Beard didn't have his best day. Elias didn't have his best day. Gareth Davis didn't have his best day by a long stretch. And they are the more experienced players of the side. The other thing I would say with D is I felt Tommy Reffell was the only player of the 29 in the pitch that managed to switch momentum from Scotland going one way to Wales moving the other way in the first half. He was the only player.
Tommy Reffell into a T, though, isn't it?
But yeah, but he's also, in my opinion, the only natural fetcher in Wales, in the Wales team at the moment. There's none of the others I would say are known for turning ball over. George North can occasionally do it. Liam Williams used to do it. Josh Adams very rarely. But Elliot Dee was known for it, particularly earlier on in his career, and Jamie would vouch for this, I assume, because it was, when he was at the Dragons, he was constantly turning ball over. That was something that was a huge plus for him later on in games. He's won Wales penalties. So that's why I'd like to see him in the team as well, because he can change momentum. Those turnover penalties are huge. But I don't think we've got enough fetchers in the side. I really don't.
I agree.
And that's something I've had an issue for years. Is you look at France, you've got Dante Ficou, you've got Penaud, Dupont. Everyone goes in for a jackal.
But this is where I'm going to talk quickly about Owen Watkin, right? Because he is catching a lot of flack on. So I've got his stats from the game here.
He wasn't good though, was he? No, you're going to try that. He was good.
No. He wasn't. He wasn't good at all by any means. But I also think he's a product of that first half. Because he had, so he went off about 50 odd minutes, was it? Something like that. He didn't last long in that second half, I felt. Right, so in the game, so he has 4 carries, right, 8 meters made, okay? He did not get the ball at all, cleanly, especially. There's issues around his go forward, I'm not denying that whatsoever. I'm an Ospreys fan, I watch him week in, week out, right? But you still can't go forward if you don't get the ball, right? So 4 carries. How many of those were clean ball? I don't know. He has 3 tackles completed. Okay, Scotland didn't play that much the wide channels for their stuff. He's got 1 turnover, which is that's standard for Owen Watkin. We know he likes a rip. He likes to turn over from the ruck. He had 1 pass during the game, right? If we go back to this game plan, the game plan was not to get the ball wide to the wings. The game plan is to truck it up, get Sam Costello to bomb it for your wingers to chase, to turn the ball over. That's the game plan. So if your outside centre is passing once, he's a product of what the stats. I don't think them stats would be very different if George North was at 13 on the weekend.
So I was just going to say I agree, because one thing I don't understand why Watkin didn't carry the ball more, because he used to be a really good ball carrier, and suddenly he's not ball carrying. I don't know why. He seemed to be, on paper, he's the biggest back. So why is he not ball carrying? Why is he not being the crash ball 12 or crash ball 13 coming on a sharper angle? The other thing, people have talked about this game plan in the first half a lot over the last few days, and I'm not wholly convinced. And Gatlin seemed to suggest that they hadn't followed the game plan. I think it was a group of players that thought they were playing how international rugby should be played. That's what it looked to me in the first half. It looked like a bunch of players that were playing rugby, how they thought international rugby should be played, rather than playing how they got into the side. That tactic of throwing the ball 16 yards back for Costello to boot it up in the air is one of the worst. We've seen Italy do it for years, and they're caught out for doing it, for being offside. I just don't understand it.
There's a lot of chat going around that it was an Ospreys way of playing. I haven't seen the Ospreys play like that. They haven't played like that this season.
I mean, kicking the ball to the opposition is what I mean. So my problem with the tactics is that when they say, we changed the tactics in the second half, we didn't. Thomas Williams comes on second half. First thing he does is he hoofs it straight down to Van der Merwe, who then runs it back and scores a try. Yeah, he gives it to Finn Russell, wasn't it? And so we didn't change the tactics at halftime. If Gatlin says we changed the tactics at halftime, we didn't. Because that was the first fucking thing we did in the second half, as we went, it wasn't working in the first half, but maybe if we try one more time, they won't be expecting it, so we'll have another go at it. So somebody somewhere, and I reckon it was the players on the pitch, went, do you know what, bollocks to this? We need to do something different. I don't think that call came from upstairs. I genuinely don't. Because
Gatlin said, I was watching Scrum 5 earlier today.
Whoa.
Gatlin told you. The unnamed program, which we played already on this program several times. Sorry. His interview was, he's been interviewed by Lauren Jenkins, and she said, what happened at half time? What did you say? And he reckons, she said, just go out there and play some rugby. That's what he said. So it's like he said to him, look, just go out there now and have a crack at it. And that's what happened. Something obviously changed in that second half because the kicking wasn't aimless. They were taking the ball to the line. They were more aggressive. They were winning collisions. Something sparked, and I do think it's because the shackles have been freed. But we can't play that way for 80 minutes either. Can't go to Twickenham and play like that for 80 minutes. It won't work.
So the bit that changed was the rucking. Yeah, you look at the speed of the ruck in the first half. In dead ball, let's put another couple of players. What are we going to do? Your only option then is the kick. Yeah, that's realistically your only option. Whether it's coming off 9 or it's coming off 10 or whether it's coming off 12, it's a kick. Yeah, particularly when you're in that midfield. So going, and I think we were running 2 rucks at most in slowish ball. Second ruck, really slow ball. What do? Kick, because that's what's been drummed into them. That's what the play has been. If it's slow ball, then this is what we do with it. Yeah. And the difference in the second half was we had players like Wainwright, both of them to a certain extent. Although I think when what's his name, young
Alex Mann.
Yeah, when he came on, his entry into rucks and Elliot D's entry into rucks was much more dynamic. They actually made an impact. You could see they go in, bang, back it goes. So the speed of ruck ball was so much quicker in the second half that you can actually do something with it. You can actually start to move it,
Also, something else changed that second half. Scotland's discipline went to shit.
Yeah.
2 yellow cards. And also, I will, because I know you like a stat, Lee, and if Harley was here, he'd do his stat. So I got a stat for you. It's not my stat. Obviously, I've nicked it. So this is from Kevin Miller on X, who's worth following. Between the 21st minute and the 79th minute of that game, the infringement count was Wales 0, Scotland 17. Which tells you everything you need to know about Scotland's ill discipline. Because when we started putting pressure on them, then that's when they started giving away penalties and yellow cards. So
this is another key difference. This is where this Wales team has a point of difference, though, is because they've got players there who can eke them penalties out of players. That's why your Tommy Raffels are so good, your Elliot D's. People like this, they just get penalties out of people. And this is where the only part of where they say this is like an Ospreys game plan, because the Ospreys are good at that as well. They get penalties out of people. Part of the, I know the weather played a factor, but you look at that Cardiff game at New Year's Day, they just made Cardiff give away penalties or knock the ball on or force mistakes out of people. I think that's where you look at that Wales' stats overall, the tackle completion, whatever, all this, it's not terrible. Like if you'd have said, if you'd blocked off these are Wales and Scotland and put all the Six Nations teams out, you wouldn't be disparaged by Carol mentioned Cam Winnett grew into the game. He did. His kicking in the first half I thought was atrocious. He just looked nervous in his kicks. They were just that bit too far or whatever. But I think they can eke penalties out of this team, and then that's where you bring in your Kai Evans and someone who bang them over from 60. That's why I think Kai Evans comes to the squad next week.
Okay, let's move on and talk about the other games first of all. Then we'll talk about selections and predictions. Okay, so we're going to talk about the England game and France and Ireland. And my only rule on this is, James, you are not allowed to compare anybody to how the Ospreys play. Okay?
Oh, right, no. Let's talk about Eastern Routes.
At no point.
Here's a challenge for you.
When talking about how Italy play, you're not allowed to say when the Ospreys played. Yeah, it's not in there. Okay, you're banned for the next 5 minutes. No.
Can I talk about Ethan Roots at least?
You can talk about Ethan Root, but not when he was playing for the Ospreys. You can talk about how he played for England. You can't talk about.
Okay.
I remember when he played against Zebra away on a Friday night. He was fucking awesome. Okay, that's what you can do. Right.
Whatever.
Let's talk about the game on Friday, the Ireland and France. What did you boys think of that one?
I called it because I did. I said I fancied Ireland to win somehow. I said it on the Welsh pod last week, and yeah, okay. Films have helped us out, which is the most helped me out.
Whoa!
Yeah. I've just got so frustrated with Wales losing. I've changed nationality. No,
Cardiff fans.
yeah. But no, I think the I don't think France win that game anyway. The way Ireland played in that first 20 minutes, they were superb. They were so clinical, it's just so drilled, so well drilled, so easy to watch in the sense of exactly what's happening. Crowley comes in for Sex, and it's like they've had an upgrade because Crowley was immense. I personally thought he was incredible. What a performance from him, and Joe McCarthy as well. Obviously getting a lot of praise, but
he was good. He was so good.
Yeah, his second row partner Ty Burn wasn't too bad either. To be fair to him, but yeah, the funniest part about it has to be that Paul Willemse wasn't in the original French squad. I just find that hilarious that they've brought him back for his experience and his know-how, and let's be honest about it, his disciplinary record is not the cleanest. So I don't know what his know-how was other than getting yellow cards. But geez,
He should have been red card in an Ospreys versus Montpellier and Champions Cup.
I was waiting for that.
Bring it back to the Ospreys yet again. He couldn't help himself, could he?
I got a link back to everything, boys. Look, you're lucky that Lee wasn't here when Cameron mentioned Tyke Byrne. I think that's why he's gone, because he knows he's about to talk about how the Scarlets single-handedly developed the best second row to grace the British Isles and Ireland.
I don't even need to say it, mate. It's just there. So, we all know he was rejected from Leinster. He was rejected from the Scarlets initially. He was playing for.
How shit do you have to be rejected by them?
Well, yeah, he was playing for the Llandudno.
That's a rite of passage for any good Scarlets player, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
By them first.
You are nobody. You're nobody unless you've been rejected by the Scarlets. But no, he was playing for Llandudno, and he got called in because somebody else was injured and had a belting game and never left. So, yeah.
Well, he did.
Well, eventually, yeah. Go on, Jamie.
So I've got a question, right? So is this now Ireland's Grand Slam to lose? Because you look at their remaining fixtures, right? They got Italy next. They're going to beat Italy, you assume. We're not going to beat Ireland in Dublin, let's be honest about it. They've got England away, which is a banana skin, and I never write off England at Twickenham. That could be the one game where they could slip up. And then they got Scotland at home, who they always beat. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but for me, I can't see who's going to stop Ireland. They're looking very, very good for this Grand Slam. They just look a well-drilled, well-coached unit, and it's hard to see who's going to stop them, isn't it?
They'll win the Six Nations. I've got no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt they'll win the Six Nations. I don't know what it is. I've got a feeling in my pit of my stomach that England are going to beat them at Twickenham. I don't know what it is.
I have that dirty feeling that that'll happen.
I have no idea where that's coming from, because England showed nothing of that sort of form on the weekend. But
just a Twickenham, isn't it? And you never write them off at Twickenham. Yeah.
Well, at least you didn't call it Twickers, because that would have
HQ.
Been that would have been a double baby sham fine, mate, and that's just no one's ever gone that far before. Right, what about the England game then? What about Senor Roots and his compadres? What did you make of it?
I'm happy. I never thought I'd say this, right? But I'm happy for England fans because they've genuinely got a good egg in Ethan Roots. He is like one of the nicest blokes I've ever had the opportunity to talk to. Always had time for every fan. Was just so happy to be there, type thing. And I knew. So when I got sent the rumour that Hawkins was leaving, at the bottom of the message was, "Oh yeah, and Exeter want Roots as well." And I was more gutted about Roots leaving than I was Hawkins. And that sounds strange to some, but he was genuinely turning into such a nasty, horrible git. I watched him at Exeter, and he has not played any different at Exeter than he did at the Ospreys. And I haven't watched the Italy game. I will hold my hands. I was playing. I've not gone back and watched it yet, but I saw his stats at the end, and I'm not surprised. You know, we've developed 66% of that back row. I would just like to point out that back row is literally made in SA6.
You messaged that on Thursday afternoon, mate. Yeah.
Mate, you should have seen the messages flying in the Ospreys group, Irie group chat.
I mean, you've been holding on to that ever since. I mean, right. Let's move on from those. It was a decent first weekend. Let's discuss real stuff like fantasy.
The under-20s. Oh.
No, let's discuss fantasy league. So who's got?
That's me.
Jamie, did you put a team in fantasy league this year, Jamie? Because you didn't do it last
year. 18th. No, I know, but I did it, and I'm currently 18th.
Right, so Harley pussied out this year, didn't he? Harley won.
He did.
Yeah. Carwyn, did you put a team in?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm in, but I can't remember what my password is to look at what my team is. So that's I was looking pretty hard and I couldn't work it out. So I don't know if James can help me out, but I can't remember what I called it.
So at top we've got Ivan with 420 points. So someone's clearly had a great time. I can't see his team. So to your top five, you've got Nathan Long in second with 412. Kamaika, no idea, 401 at third. We've got In It to Win It, obviously play on Can Win It. Should be docked points for that name, absolutely, in my opinion. And then, but joint with them is Smelly Ken's Barmy Army. I sit, where am I sitting? I'm sitting at 20th with 363 points. Jamie is joint 18th with 364. Some great names. You've got Proppenheimer. Lee, you're sitting there in 27th.
Yeah. I'd have been fine if it bloody all of my players, just every single player that got sent off was in my fucking fantasy team.
To surprising no one, Celtic Warriors are near the bottom. Cowan, you know, my predecessor, he's 40th. He probably picked DuPont. Yeah, I would just like to add that so there's in 50th with 221 points is Ospreys Exiles. Don't know who that is, but you're letting the side down. Come on, that's clearly Alan Clark because he can't pick a squad. But in position NA is a certain Lee G. So I think you're lying.
Yeah.
I think this is your actual team.
I set up the league using the wrap account, and then to check that the league was set up, I went into my own account and then added myself to the league and went, yeah, it's there, and then went back into the wrap account and just set up a team, and completely forgot that I'd added my personal account to the league, and then I checked the league on Sunday morning and I went, shit, I'm in last place. How have I got? Did I forget to save my team or something?
So Ivan, whoever you are top.
Well done. But it will change drastically. Some of us have been top of the league after week one, boys. Do you know what I mean? Some of us have been in that heady position and then ended up like 50th or whatever the fuck it did last year. Right. Predictions. Let's talk about who we want in the side, what we want changing, and scores. Go on, Carwyn. What?
I just want to jump in and say I'm 37. Finally managed to get my login. It wasn't even worth it, was it?
Are you They See Me Roland?
Yeah.
Oh, you need to be docked points for that. That's horrific.
What's your team name, James?
JR. I left mine from last year. So I fully intended to try and win the Rock and Roll League last year, and then forgot to do it after round 2. So I logged back in this year, not thinking of it, and I did it just before the under-20s kicked off. I was scrambling to do it on Friday because the deadline was 8 p.m. and I had to pick my girlfriend up from the train station. So I was like walking to the train station, deciding whether to put Dav Jenkins in the second row, or the one who really lost me fucking points was Josh Adams and Tadhg Furlong, who were awful, both of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
My other point to make on fantasy is I'm also in a 2-person league with my girlfriend. At the moment, I'm second. So there we go.
We used to have a family league with just the wife, me, and the kids, and the wife would pick her team based on who sounds nice, who's got the nicest name in each position. My daughter would pick the team based on how does it look. I want to make pretty positions. I want to make a pretty pattern. So red, blue, green, and all that. Both of them beat me. I just spent hours going through it. Both of them beat me one year. Nightmare. Right, let's discuss predictions. So who do we want? What changes do we... Right, let's split this up. What changes do we want? What changes do we expect? Because what we want and Gatland wants, two very different things.
Front row, I think, will change. I want it to change as well. I think we'll see Darmachowski, Elliott, D, Kieran Azarati. I think Will Rowlands will come in for Adam Beard. I think there's a very high possibility that Adam Beard will be dropped. It is Gatland. He does like Beard, and we know he doesn't drop his favourites, that much. But I think he likes Teddy Williams. He sees Teddy Williams as a long-term system player, whether it be at 6 or at 5. So I think he drops it. I think the back row stays the same. I think there's a lot of calls for Alex Mann to come in. I don't think Jim Botham set the world on fire, but he's steady. He's, we want a bit of consistency. Hugh Griffin or Catboy talks a lot about, but he talks about Scarlets this season, and Lee, you'll back me up here. They've not been consistent in squad selection.
Yeah.
And I think Gatland, I know we're planning for the future and whatnot, but he still needs to have consistency in key positions. Obviously, we know Yohan Lloyd, I think, is going to come in at 10. I think there's no questions about that. George North, if he has a full week of training, walks in at 13. I look, Joe Roberts fans, I've got him on the bench on my team. He's great, but Nick Tompkins is great, but you're not putting basically a debutant outside centre at Twickenham when you've got that quality backline that England have. On the bench, then, I think Kai Evans comes in as a replacement fly half or fullback, and Joe Robertson at 23. Then I think that rounds out what happens on the bench.
Okay, Jamie, your thoughts?
So I think changes need to be made. I am cautious about Wales throwing a baby out with a bathwater, so I don't want to see mass changes, but I certainly do think some changes need to be made. Yes, it would be nice to see Elliott D, although, like I said, his best performances have been off the bench, but I do think he deserves a starting spot. Hopefully Will Rowlands be available because he'll have that physicality, that grunt and ball carrying. I would start Alex Mann, a blindside. I just give him a crack because I'm really impressed with him. He's going great for Cardiff. What's there to lose? So I probably would have Alex Mann at blindside. Thomas Williams or Gav Davis? You'd have to start Thomas Williams, wouldn't you? You've got to reward him for the impact that he made, and I'd have Davis on the bench. So is Costello definitely out of this? Because we're saying he is, but is he definitely out? Because I haven't seen it officially confirmed. He is out,
Because it's his second HIA in... I think it's if you have 2 HIAs within 3 months, you have to have a longer period. I don't know the specifics of it. But
okay.
I agree with Lee. I don't exactly know the rules are, but I can't see how he plays this weekend.
No.
Okay, so what you're left with then is either Yohan Lloyd or Kai Evans, both of who are not natural 10s today, let's be honest. So I probably would go with Yohan Lloyd on that one. And then the centres, I think it will be Tompkins and North. I think, if North's available, you go straight back into that team. And, unfortunately, as much as I like Owen Watkins, I thought you made very little impact. Rio Dyer. Now, this is an interesting call now on the wing. because Gatland was not happy. He was not happy with Josh Adams, and we've all said he had a shit game. Does Gatland punish him? Send a message to say, no, I don't want stupid shit like that in my team, especially playing with young boys. Do you drop him? And then you bring in Mason Grady? Or do you give Josh Adams another opportunity to redeem himself? And I honestly don't know which way that's going to go. I wouldn't be against Josh Adams being dropped, as much as I like him. He had an absolute stinker. But I do think he will go with Josh Adams. He really did, yeah. And then Cam win it a fullback. That's the obvious choice, isn't it? That would be my 15 anyway. But I don't want to see us making mass changes, like some are suggesting. But I do think some individuals deserve the opportunity at Twickenham this weekend, given the fact they came on and they brought more energy and they made a big impact off the bench. I don't see the likes of Tim Basham coming in to the 23. I like to see Joe Roberts there. As I said earlier,
I think he'll be on the bench.
Well, we'll see. I don't know, but when Jiffy said we haven't got a creative 13 footballer, we have. It's Joe Roberts. And let's not forget when Wales played England in the World Cup warm-up, Joe Roberts played very well. He made that line break, didn't he? The setup. I can't remember who scored.
Yeah,
but
Gareth Davis.
Gareth.
Yeah, you remember that line break he made. He did very well.
I would just like to remind you that Sam Parry made a 30-metre line break in that game as well. So
I don't remember that, mate. Sorry.
I do.
You too.
Yeah. Now he's playing
that would be my team anyway.
Yeah, he's playing for Aberravon seconds now, mate. So he's got a way to go. Carwyn, your changes for this weekend.
Yeah, I've got 8 changes. I think James gone through them.
Bloody hell.
Well, yeah. Well, you think about it. You've got Elias. You've got Dean at hooker. You've got Azarati in. You've got Rowlands in. That's 3. Then you bring Mann in. That's 4. Thomas, Lloyd. That's 6. Then you've got George North, and I think Grady starts ahead of Josh. The other thing I'd add.
Point, yeah.
That is 8 changes, and I don't really see the only one I think might start is Josh, because Josh is the whole thing with Gatlin calling him out. Josh to me seems like a Mike Phillips sort of character, that he would take that personally and think, right, I've got to prove a point next week. I've got to go out there and but that's what Mike used to do whenever he was up against it. He used to perform, and that's what I can see Josh doing. I'm going to go against the Joe Roberts thing only because I don't know who your 12 cover is then. Because if Kai Evans is on the bench, that's your fullback position sorted, and as a result, you've got your wing outside centre position sorted. So who's covering 12? I think Watkins stays on the bench purely because he's the only one the only other one bar Tompkins in the squad who can play 12 or has played 12. I don't see. Unless, we mentioned Johan Lloyd at 12 earlier, but I don't see Gatlin buying that one. So
no,
a visionary.
A vision. It's not a vision. But I see Gatlin picking. That's the thing I'd say is I just. Is there anything on Gareth Thomas's injury? Because I think that's another big one. Because
Gareth,
if he's fit, he comes onto the bench as well.
Gareth picked up a knock in the Perpignan game. And Ospreys made a decision in that game to not bring him back on when Garen Phillips got injured, so they went down to uncontested scrum the 78th minute. He then didn't travel to South Africa in our historic win against the Lions. Did a historic slip out there. So when we beat the Lions out there, and then this week it's been said that he didn't do a full week's training, which suggests that he is fit, but maybe only became fit on like the Wednesday. Or they were monitoring him throughout the week and didn't want to overload his training, a bit like the George North one. George North obviously picked up that stinger in the demolition of the Lions. I can't even say it with a straight face. It's fucking hilarious. When we beat the Lions out in South Africa, he picked up a stinger, which Booth said it was it was a stinger, but a bit more like neural. So it all depends if they have a full week's training. And Harley said this on Cardiff Central, I think, actually. Gatlin likes players to have a full week's training under their belt. So, like, Will Rowlands is back in full training. He's in the squad photos from today. So you would expect Will Rowlands to walk straight back into that squad. I actually think that even if Rowlands had half a week's training, he'd go on the bench and they'd stick with Beard. So Gatland will stick to his principles of if they have a full week's training, they will get into the squad. But with Gareth Thomas, I think even if he has half a week this week, he goes on the bench instead of Kenzie Mathias because we did not see Mathias on Saturday. That's where I'm at with Gareth Thomas, and I think I think we're all pretty unanimous in that we put Gareth Thomas in at least on the bench on Saturday.
Okay. So for me, it's not so much about the selection; it's about the tactics on Saturday. And I
that's not what you asked us.
Well,
you asked us what changes we wanted. Changing the question now.
just talk shit for an hour, dude. I agree with Jamie that Gatland doesn't like changes. He doesn't like mass changes. So I can't see huge amounts of people changing. Actually, my problem with Thomas Williams is he plays really well when he comes on as a sub, and everyone goes, oh, he's got to start, and then he starts a game and he fucks it up. So playing where he's best, which is coming off the bench, whether that is at half time, then I'm fine with that. But Gareth Davis is similar to where you're talking about when you have a go at someone and how do they respond. Gareth Davis is that kind of person. But you put, and this is where I'm talking about tactics. If you put Gareth Davis behind a ruck that's fast, Gareth Davis will carve people open. Thomas Williams will create stuff. And that's why I think the two of them are quite good at the same time. James, you're not in school now, mate.
Well, Alex Bywater has just put up an article about what we're talking about now.
I can deal with people copying us after, but while we're on air?
No. So Alex Bywater said Will Rowlands is very likely going to start on Saturday.
That's good. And
George North will feature as well. I'm just trying to see if there's any others.
We need those two back, by the way. If we're to have any chance against England, we need North and we need Rowlands back.
There's Bywater's hinting that Beard is likely to drop to the bench.
Yeah,
which is really harsh on Teddy, and because I really do rate Teddy Williams. Right, he's one of the if we do that thing, who do we take? I'd take Teddy Williams in a heartbeat because I think he's a fucking fantastic prospect. He will have his time in that, and he'll have that time in the saddle being in that squad. So yeah. I would just like to say they are seeing it looks like they're seeing a specialist about Costello.
Yeah, I've just seen that.
So so don't rule out Costello just yet. But I think they might not play him out of fear for Costello more than anything.
I wouldn't play him just because you've got to look after. He's still a young kid.
Yeah. I agree.
23, 24. He's got 10, 15 years potentially playing that position at that level.
Well, he's just warming up the jersey for when Dan Edwards is actually ready. So
anyway, to go.
Sam's got to have a week off. That's all I'm going to say. Just coming back to Lee's point about Gareth Davis, I just wanted to say he's so out of form, Lee. Gareth, he's been out of form all season for Scarlets, and that's my main issue with Gareth Davis at the moment, is that he was brilliant in the World Cup, and I can't speak higher enough of him, but he is so out of form this season.
I disagree, mate. I've watched him play every game this season, and there's been at least a couple of games that if he hadn't been on the pitch, we wouldn't have won. It's as simple as that. And what I
you want to?
You've only won a couple of games, though.
I thought that was.
That was Cardiff.
Then
that was Cardiff.
He was making a dig, but it was unintentional.
So
he accidentally scores an interception against us.
So go back to my point about the type of game that you're going to play against England is not the same type of game that you're going to play against Scotland. You're not going to get away with that. If you're going to ask Gareth Davis to kick
no, bring Kieran Hardy in and play a kicking game. You know, and if these are the tactics that you're going to have, then set your team up to play those tactics, and that's why I'm not overly convinced that Gatland's in control of that team as much as he believes he is. I think you've got some young kids coming through there that are going, actually, give me the ball and let me run. And I think that's the kind of game that actually we need to play against England. England like a very structured game, and they don't like being challenged. They don't like, people popping up in stupid places where they shouldn't be. They don't like tap and goes. They don't like a tap and go. If you're in your own 22, the England pack turn their back and walk backwards. Yeah, run at them, back it, go, bang.
You wanted to throw caution to the window. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying you have to pick and choose your tactics and early and play to those tactics. Yeah, and England like a structured game. They work well against a structured defence. When Italy were, doing things that England weren't expecting, they were changing a bit of the line out. They were running moves off a scrum. They were quite strong in the scrum, and they were running moves off a scrum that England just weren't expecting, and they were getting yards out of England every time because they were in England's faces and England couldn't defend against it. And I think we need to just kind of confuse England, and people underestimate how that can happen in a game where England, in particular, of all the sides, England can't cope with a fluid, flexible game. Yeah.
So the bits I do know about England from Saturday is you could see Felix Jones is having a input in that defence already. It's very blitz heavy.
Yeah.
So actually, if you are going to change the tactics, keep the kicking game, but rather than skyward bombs, the team is to be dinks over the top. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's very telling. The back row they pick is 3-yard bastards who are just going to do the graft. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Underhill, Roots, Earl. You could tell Borthwick knows what he wants, and Felix Jones has clearly gone to him and said, "No, gone. You're not picking Don Brandt. You're not picking these flashy ones. You're going to pick these 3 workhorses in the back row who are going to get me. Who are going to get me the ball. You've got a fetcher, you've got a hard hitter, and you've got a big carrier. It's very evident what Gatland wants what Borthwick wants in that back row. That's where, and going off to Cowan's point earlier, Gatland needs to figure out what he wants in his back row now.
And if we're going to play, so the way we were successful in that second half where we played a more creative game, that is where we could be. That type of game is more likely to be successful against England than it is against Scotland.
Yes,
and
I agree.
We showed against Scotland that actually we can play that game and go really well. You look at Wainwright's try, Elliot D. So we get a penalty right in front of the post, and 3 Scotland forwards stand there and go, like that. And Elliot T taps and goes. Yeah. One quick ruck, and then Wainwright quick feet and in under the posts. Yeah. And that's the kind of game that we need to be playing. Remember when we played, when Hardy, similar thing, away in England, Twickenham, penalty right in front of the post, and Hardy taps and goes and scores from 15 meters out because England turned their backs. That's the kind of stuff that's just inherent in an English team, that their attitude, their arrogance, their switch off or whatever just happens. Yeah. And that's what we need to exploit. So if whatever team we play needs to be aimed at exploiting that kind of thing. That's why I think someone like Johan Lloyd, as much as he gets dicked when he's playing 10 against the Scarlets, he's that kind of player that will carve open England. Yeah, and he will have an absolute field day against England. That's why Joe Roberts plays well against England, because they can't cope with a non-structured attack. So that's the kind of team we need to play, as well as having a bunch of ugly fuckers up front to pass the ball around and give us stuff to do.
So what score predictions are you doing?
So score predictions. Go on then, James, you go first.
I'm going to go England by 6. I just think, despite all of that, they will have too much for us. It's at home. I think there'll be a different beast. They'll work out the kinks from the Italy game. It's not often England get outscored on the try count. I think we'll see a lot. We'll see a lot more from them.
Okay, James is a traitor. Jamie?
Yeah, I gotta go for England as well. Because I just think they'll have too much for us. I think they'll have too much power. That's my concern. If we try to play Warren ball, we're gonna get overpowered. But whatever team approach selection has got to be right. Really important how Kaplan gets the team selection right. But yeah, it's England HQ. Wales haven't won there now for a number of years. Can't remember the last time. Should have looked it up really, but it just feels like a long time since we won at Twickenham. And I think never went off England Twickenham.
Yeah,
in the Six Nations. In the Six Nations. Yeah, but in the Six Nations, I think it goes back further than that. I don't know, but it's been a long time. Then. Yeah, it's been a very long time. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to.
Well, no, it would have been 2019. No, that was at home, wasn't it? Yeah, that was at home. Sorry.
Anyway, so it's 2 traitors and a baby champagne for Jamie for calling it HQ. Carwyn.
If the fundamentals, line out and kick chase are as bad as and kick where it goes are as bad as they were in the first half against Scotland, it could be a mauling. I still think it's winnable. I really do. I don't think this England side is brilliant yet. I think it's building, but I don't think it's anywhere near there. If I was to bet on it, I'd say England by 3, but I still think Wales could win it.
Well, how can Wales win it if you're predicting England by 3?
I still think Wales could win it. That's not saying Wales won't win it. I think Wales. I just don't see Wales correcting all the issues from last week in 1 week. That's the main thing. But also, it totally looked pretty good on the weekend. Roots was brilliant, and then you've got a backline that, if they play Ollie Lawrence, which I think they should do, England have got. He's out. Is he completely out? Oh, then Wales are going to win that. Here we go. That's it.
Okay, don't forget Faye Waboso as well.
You just about
never heard of him.
You just about saved yourself on that last one, Carwyn. So I'm working on 3 traitors and then right, who's got?
See that going, yeah.
Fuck, this is hard enough doing it as it is, boys.
There's 2 of them now.
Fucking hell.
It is 2012, by the way, guys. The last time Wales won in the Six Nations at Twickenham.
Okay.
It is. I've just
when Ospreys legend Scott Williams ripped the ball off.
Off Courtney Laws. I was there. Brilliant day, great game.
All right, so I'll wrap up by Wales by 1. And on that note, gents, it's time for us to go. It's time for us to go. We shall do it all again next week. Carwyn, thank you for joining us this evening, mate.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoyed yourself.
Yeah.
With your 2 different beers. Harley has got something to live up to next week. Gents, enjoy your rugby. I shall catch you again next week. All the best.
Have a good one.
Ta-ra.
Thank you for listening to the Wrap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week with more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.